to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"
The media is the opposition party. And a big portion of the media, the dishonesty, the total deceit and deception makes them certainly the opposition party.
CNN fake news. What do you think?
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to SmythRadio. Your host, Brian Smith and
Kerry Smith.
Giving you we're doing a special show today. Giving you some
special
breaking news. We've got some insight on this fake news media is so out of control. It is so off the hook that we had to drop everything. We ran playing hooky from work.
We just said, dude, we got to go on right now.
Ditch the wife and the kids.
Yes.
Lock them up. So if you want to follow us on Twitter at SmythRadio, SMYTH Radio. Also follow me on Twitter, Brian P. Smith. And we're on Facebook.com/SmythRadio. No calls for the show today, but if you want to listen to our show on Sunday evening, 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern, you can be a part of the show, the live call-in. But today we're talking about all news in America kind of starts with and is generated by the New York Times. They put the narrative out there, what they want all the other news networks to reiterate, just puppet strings and hand it all out. This article came out of them today, and it's blood shooting out of our eyes and wherever.
Yeah, my main reason for wanting to do this show immediately right away is because I want to give everybody listening the confidence to see an article like this particular article, and be able to tell everybody you see every time you see it that this is fake news. And so what we're going to do is we're going to walk through this whole thing and this whole article line by line, and we're going to show you exactly why it's fake, what is fake about what is being said in this article. And the article in the New York Times today is called "Trump Campaign Aides Had Repeated Contact with Russian Intelligence." That's the name of the article. And when I first read it, and I don't even know if this is the very first article that I saw on this new narrative today. The narrative today is that Trump campaign connected to Russian intelligence in order to steal the election from the Democrats because the Trump administration is not legitimate. It's all fake, or it's all stolen by Russia and all this kind of stuff. So I think it's very important that we fire back on this hardcore. So without further ado, I guess let's get right into the article. Okay, so here we are. Washington. Phone records and intercepted calls show that members of Donald J. Trump's 2016 presidential campaign and other Trump associates had repeated contacts with senior Russian intelligence officials in the year before the election, according to 4 current and former American officials. So that's a mouthful. That's a handful, that first paragraph. So let's talk about that. So we're talking about phone records intercepted, and we're talking about the CIA and FBI.
Yeah, because all these phone records would be of the most highest security
Oh, absolutely.
level.
Top secret, for sure.
And the narrative has been painted by the Democrat Party that Russia stole the election and hacked it, and we all know that's not true, but they're still running with that narrative. So this right here says that all along, Intel is saying that they are illegally leaking to us, the New York Times, information that it's true.
Yeah, and
Russia.
And also presidential campaign and other Trump associates. So we're not just talking about people that are friends with Donald Trump that were in the campaign, but also Trump associates. And they had repeated contact with senior Russian intelligence officials. And what you're going to find out way deep into this article, what they're really saying here. On the surface, what they want you to believe here is that Russian intelligence government officials in Russia are working with the Trump campaign in order to win him the presidency.
Right.
That is fake, and we're going to get into why that's fake. American law enforcement and intelligence agencies intercepted the communications around the same time they were discovering evidence that Russia was trying to disrupt the presidential election by hacking into the DNC, 3 officials say. Well, we know that the hacking into the DNC is most likely fake because after all these months and months and months, not one shred of actual empirical or even, as far as I could tell, even circumstantial evidence has been presented to make the case that this is actually the case.
Well, and Julian Assange has come out since the election and has come out as boldly as he could possibly. He said, I will never give up, but I gotta see this. It wasn't Russia.
It wasn't in a Russian.
He literally came out.
Official. Yeah, right.
WikiLeaks came out for the first time in 10 years and said, no, it's not Russia. Dude, that's huge.
And by the way,
that's huge.
Julian Assange / WikiLeaks has probably the strongest credibility of just about anything out there in the world.
Never proven wrong in 10 and a half years.
They've been right about everything. And he comes out, a guy who's been right about everything, and not only right about everything, but also very cognizant and very protective of his credibility.
And he doesn't like America.
Yeah,
he really doesn't like him.
He's not,
and he doesn't like Trump either.
He's not shilling for Trump. Do not get it twisted. He just wanted to come out and point out that it is a fact that he did not get the DNC hacked information from Russian government officials, and he did say that. So the agencies then sought to learn whether the Trump campaign was colluding with the Russians on the hacking and other efforts to influence the election. So what they're saying here is that they haven't made any conclusions. In fact, all they did was seek to learn whether Trump and his
See, I've got a hypothesis here.
Yeah, it's a hypothesis.
I think Trump might be doing this, and this, and we're going to go look for it.
They're looking for it. That's literally all they said there, was that they are going to go look to see if it's true. The officials interviewed in recent weeks said that so far they had seen no evidence of such cooperation. Thank you. So there's a little bit of nugget of truth there.
They just told on themselves.
Okay, yeah, and there's a lot of telling on themselves. And we want to go through this because my first impression with this article was, oh, gosh, man, they really smell blood in the water. They're going for the jugular. They're going after Trump. And I really felt that when I first saw this article until we need to go through this so that you know how fake this is. Okay, moving on. But the intercepts alarmed American intelligence and law enforcement agencies in part because of the amount of contact that was occurring while Mr. Trump was speaking glowingly about the Russian president, Vladimir Putin. What does that mean? What that means is that we were just concerned at the amount of contact that was occurring while at the same time that Mr. Trump was speaking positively about the Russian president.
They kept pushing that narrative the whole time that Trump, so you approve of Putin, Mr. Trump. And Trump's like, no. Oh, well, he said he respects you. Does that mean as a leader? And you said you respect him. What does that mean? And that's what this whole story is just building upon, false narratives that they've painted in the past.
And also, one thing that this is trying to mislead you into believing is that the fact that there was contact at all, and a lot of contact, the amount of contact that was occurring between Trump people and the Russian government officials, there was a volume of it, and it's misleading you into believing, oh my God.
Well, he has a volume dial, okay, and that dial goes all the way up, not to 10. Goes to 100.
Oh, God.
And Trump went to 100 and back around. So it's like 200%, right?
Broke the dial.
So what kind of number they're not giving a number. They're using a word to make it. It could be 2. He had 2 contacts, which is double the amount of before.
So this next sentence is the first piece of evidence that they use to substantiate this article that has already been totally proven false. Ready for this one? At one point last summer, Mr. Trump said at a campaign event that he hoped Russian intelligence services had stolen Hillary Clinton's email and would make them public. Now, that piece of fake news, we all know, if you pay any attention to the campaign last year, that Mr. Trump at the time was saying that as a joke.
Right. It was a joke.
In order to, they were making fun of the fact that they believe that Russia has been meddling in the campaign.
And just to paraphrase, he said the statement something like this. He said, and the homebrew server, I mean, Russia's probably got it. I mean, China's probably got it. And if you do have it, just put it out there. I mean, just expose it for who they are.
Right.
Or send it back. That's what it was. Send back the emails.
So the lie here is that him saying that was some sort of evidence that he actually is colluding with the Russian intelligence services. That's the lie.
Give back the 33,000 emails that Hillary deleted.
Right.
That was something of the fact of that Trump said, well, we'll just go to Russia and get them. They probably got them.
Right. He wanted to know where those deleted emails were. And so I'm glad you remembered that little nugget of detail, because now it's really starting to come back. That's really important. So really, he was making fun of the fact that there was some sort of collusion going on with Russia and him, which was totally fake. And he knew it because he
But
knows
what was real is that she deleted 33,000 emails,
right,
and nobody knew where they were.
And
which is another lie.
He pointed out a truth there, that if they're really hacking, if they're the hackers, then they certainly have the 33,000 emails. All right, so moving on. The officials said the intercepted communications were not limited to Trump campaign officials and included other associates of Mr. Trump. What that sentence means is they're admitting that, see, Trump is a multi-billionaire businessman who has a multinational business, international businesses across the globe.
Right.
Okay, so he's dealing with people who, some of which he hired on the campaign, some of whom that are in the campaign were people that worked in his businesses, right?
Right.
But also there's people that he didn't hire on to the campaign that work in his businesses that also had contact with Russian intelligence officials. Okay, so what does that mean? We're going to find out as this article goes on. That's very critical that you understand that they're kind of admitting, they're telling on themselves. They don't intend to, but you're going to find out that they're actually letting the cat out of the bag by saying that, well, it deals with all kinds of Trump officials, not just campaign officials, but other associates of Trump. On the Russian side, this thing is so chock full of nuggets. On the Russian side, the contacts also included members of the government outside of intelligence services, they said. So what they're saying, what that means is that the CIA, the NSA, FBI have been spying on Russia. And what they found out in that spying is that Trump associates were talking to Russian government officials that weren't even involved in the intelligence field. And this will all make sense. I should probably let me just clear this up real quick. I'm going to go ahead and let some of the cat out of the bag, and then you'll see later on in this article that they do pretty much say this. Donald Trump's associates are businessmen working in companies, some of whom are either located in Russia or deal with Russian businessmen.
Other corporations.
Yeah. And
worldwide corporations.
What you're going to find out later, deep buried in this article, is that Russia routinely infiltrates their Russian government or their Russian businesses with intelligence officials and other government officials not even involved in intelligence, but mainly intelligence officials so that they can spy on their own companies to maintain control over them, make sure they're not going rogue or doing un-Russian activities. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so that's really important to realize. All of the current and former officials spoke on the condition of anonymity because continuing investigation is classified. So they're admitting that it's also illegal. Thank you very much.
So it was illegal for the New York Times to get this information, and it was illegal for the official to tell him about this and asked New York Times not to publish his name because then he would be in trouble for illegally leaking.
He would be led out of his office in handcuffs and gone to prison.
I'm glad the New York Times is on top of that.
Okay. The official said that one of the advisors picked up on the call was Paul Manafort. Remember him?
What?
Who was Mr. Trump's campaign chairman for several months last year and had worked as a political consultant in Ukraine. Key point.
They blasted him for this. That's why he had to leave, because the DNC would not let up off of.
Okay, yeah, so he was a political consultant in Ukraine, so obviously he knows Russian officials and in politics.
Which there's nothing wrong with that.
Right, I mean, that's what he did. That was his job. The officials declined to identify the other Trump associates on the call. Okay. The call logs and intercepted communications are part of a larger trove of information that the FBI is sifting through as it investigates the links between Mr. Trump associates and the Russian government, as well as the hacking of the DNC, according to federal law enforcement officials. So, a larger trove of information that the FBI is sifting through. So the FBI is really digging into this deep. As part of its inquiry, the FBI has obtained banking and travel records and conducted interviews, the officials said.
Okay, hold on. So the New York Times is relying on an unnamed source.
Well, they know them. They're not telling us.
Okay, unnamed source that they know that's in the intelligent community that has access to banking records?
Oh, they would, yeah.
But he's relaying that information. I mean, the amount of information he's relaying to the New York Times, if true, if this guy is even true,
totally criminal,
would do it years in Leavenworth.
And also, this is very important. I'm going to point this out now, and I'll point this out as much as I can remember to point it out to you. At this point in the article, not a single thing of illegality has been pointed out whatsoever
on the part of Trump. However, the illegalities is the New York Times,
right,
in cahoots with high-level officials.
They're not
leaking.
Alleging anything illegal at all on the part of Trump or any administration official so far at all. Mr. Manafort, who had not been charged with any crimes, thank you, dismissed the officials' accounts in a telephone interview on Tuesday. Quote, "This is absurd," he said. "I have no idea what this is referring to. I have never knowingly spoken to a Russian intelligence officer, and I have never been involved with anything to do with the Russian government or the Putin administration or any other issues under investigation today," unquote. He added, quote, "It's not like these people wear badges that say, 'I'm a Russian intelligence officer,' unquote." I'm glad they added that. So this proves my point that Russian officials, especially intelligence officials, have infiltrate this, and Manafort knows this. Manafort knows that they're infiltrated, and that it's possible that he could be talking to somebody about business in a Russian business that happens to be a Russian intelligence official.
And he doesn't know that.
Yeah, he wouldn't know that.
But he's talking to him about business, not about the sanctions that Obama put on and kicked the Russian diplomats out of America. He's not talking about that.
Several of Mr. Trump's associates, like Mr. Manafort, have done business in Russia. Okay.
So is Hillary with Uranium One.
Exactly. And it is not unusual for American businessmen to come in contact with foreign intelligence officials, sometimes unwittingly, in countries like Russia and Ukraine, where spy services are deeply embedded in society. Thank you. There's your truth bomb right there. Law enforcement officials did not say to what extent the contacts may have been about business. You know why? Because they were probably completely about business.
Well, that was his reason for going over there, is to drum up business. Business.
That's what they were, businessmen.
That's what they do.
They treat Trump as if he was some sort of government official, elected official, involved with the government in any way, shape, or form prior to running for president. He was a businessman. Of course he's going to be over there talking to government officials unbeknownst to him.
And what government official of another country, if I'm a businessman and I go to Russia and I'm talking and it happens to be a government official, he knows I'm a businessman. He knows I have nothing to do with the American government. Why on God's green earth would he discuss something with me about the government issues? It wouldn't be that way. Well, he would be trying to extrapolate, pull information out of me but I wouldn't know anything about the government.
Well, they're trying to mislead the reader into thinking that because it was during the campaign, or could have been during the campaign, that they were specifically talking about how to collude to steal the election.
Correct.
Officials would not disclose many details, including what was discussed on the calls, the identity of the Russian intelligence officials who participated, and how many of Trump's advisors were talking to Russians. It is also unclear whether the conversations had anything to do with Mr. Trump himself. Thank you.
So they just said this article that we put, the title of the article is about Trump.
Is totally misleading.
And towards the end, we don't know if this even has to do with Trump.
Oh my gosh. A report from American intelligence agencies that was made public in January concluded that the Russian government had intervened in the election in part to help Mr. Trump, but did not address whether any of the members of the Trump campaign had participated in the effort. So this is really important. A report from American intelligence agencies that was made public concluded. That conclusion does not necessarily have to be correct. And we here at Smith Radio very aggressively denounce that report.
Not only that, but there are reports that I regularly go against, namely the consensus of scientists on global warming.
Yeah, I mean, there's
a consensus out there.
Yeah, it's a vast consensus.
It's
overwhelming, almost unanimous.
The volume of consensus.
Right. So they came up with a conclusion. By the way, it is a fact now that the American intelligence agencies are against the new administration, and so we know that the conclusion would be extremely biased.
Dick Morris came out this morning with a video calling the outing of General Flynn is a win for Obama's coup. It's
shadow government.
Yeah, shadow government.
Right.
Obama's coup.
Okay, moving on. The intercepted calls are different from the wiretapped conversation from last year between Michael Flynn and Mr. Trump's former national security advisor and Sergei Kislyak, Russia's ambassador to the United States. Okay, so there was much made about wiretapping. I think that tweets have been put out. Why are they wiretapping? Has there been warrants? Blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. Why are they wiretapping Flynn? He wasn't even part of the administration yet. It was before the transition, all this kind of stuff. Okay, so wiretapping of conversations between foreign entities, specifically, especially ambassadors, foreign ambassadors.
Yeah, if it's a foreign ambassador and anybody's talking to a foreign ambassador, it'd
be routine.
Yeah.
It's a routine thing. Many are saying that Flynn should have known that he was being wiretapped in this conversation. I think there's a lot to say about the discrepancy between what Michael Flynn remembered in the conversation and what was in the actual.
That's a whole nother conversation.
Right.
But I'm really, just to let you folks know, I am absolutely beside myself that Trump, that obviously there's information they're not telling us.
Right.
The reason why they let Flynn go, because on the surface, what we're hearing, that's insanity. But we've got to trust Trump. He knows what he's doing.
All right. In those calls, which led to Mr. Flynn's resignation on Monday night, the two men discussed sanctions that the Obama administration imposed on Russia in December. I think that that might be a factual statement. The two men discussed sanctions. It might, but to what degree they discussed it, I think it may have been, now this is just speculation on our part, we believe that Russia brought it up and Flynn said, well, we're not going to discuss that now.
Right.
And that constitutes discussing it.
Oh, so you discuss not discussing it?
Yes, I think that that's what they dropped on him, but that's total speculation on our part. So anyway, moving on. But the cases are part of American intelligence and law enforcement agencies' routine electronic surveillance of the communication of foreign officials. We just said that. The FBI declined to comment. The White House also declined to comment Tuesday night, but earlier in the day, the press secretary Sean Spicer stood by Mr. Trump's previous comments that nobody from his campaign had contact with Russian officials before the election. That's an unfortunate statement that he made, not because there's anything wrong with him saying it on its surface, but it's going to be the thing that the mainstream media is going to use to say, look, they lied. They lied to us. They lied to you. They lied to the American people. They said that they had no contact because they're going to prove this wrong.
No new taxes. Read my lips. No
I
new
don't
taxes.
think I don't think it'll be a no new taxes thing.
You don't think so?
No, because new taxes is an action that you have to willfully do.
But I say that because that's how they roll. They'll find that one thing and just hammer you on it.
Quote, there's nothing that would conclude me that anything different has changed with respect to that time period, unquote, Mr. Spicer said in response to a question. 2 days after the election, November, Sergei Ryabkov, Russian foreign minister said, quote, there were contacts, unquote, during the campaign between Russian officials and Mr. Trump's team. So there's your discrepancy. They're trying to say that Sean Spicer and the entire Trump administration are a bunch of liars.
Well, how many days did they stretch out the whole, how many people were on the mall?
Oh, my God.
For the inauguration.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. Quote, obviously, we know most of the people from his entourage, unquote, which is what Ryabkov told Russian Interfax news agency. Now, the Trump transition team denied Mr. Ryabkov's statement. Quote, this is not accurate, Hope Hicks said, a spokeswoman for Mr. Trump said at the time. The National Security Agency, NSA, which monitors the communication of foreign intelligence services, initially captured the calls between Trump associates and the Russians as part of a routine foreign surveillance. After that, the FBI asked the NSA to collect. This is key. So let me explain. I'll read it real quick. After that, the FBI asked the NSA to collect as much information as possible about the Russian operatives on the phone calls and to search through troves of previously intercepted communications that had not been analyzed. What this whole paragraph means is the NSA was spying on Mr. Trump's associates through the Russians. They found out, a conversation took place between a Trump associate, and notice how they didn't even put campaign. So this would be a non-campaign Trump businessman. This is a businessman that works for Mr. Trump.
Right.
He talks to a person overseas who happens to be Russian.
Right.
And according to this, they didn't even call him an intelligence official or even a government official.
Well, he was Russian.
He was just Russian.
Oh.
I'll read it again. The NSA initially captured the call between Mr. Trump's associates and the Russians as part of a routine foreign surveillance. So then listen to this next sentence. After that, so put yourself in their position. You're an NSA top operative, a top guy. You find out that a conversation happened between somebody that works for Mr. Trump and somebody else who was Russian. And you have that recorded.
There you go.
What do? You say, we need to get all hands on deck.
Smoking guns everywhere.
Get all hands on deck. I want every single Russian tapped who could possibly talk to somebody even remotely associated with Trump whatsoever. I want it all recorded. All right, so listen, I'll read it again. After that, the FBI asked the NSA to collect as much information as possible about the Russian operatives on the phone calls and to search through troves of previous intercepted communication that had not yet been analyzed. So they're like, okay, we're going to get all new stuff recorded, and then we're going to dive through all calls intercepted by all Russians previously, and we're going to find out if any of this stuff has been between Russians and anybody associated with Trump. This is a massive witch hunt on the government dime, on the taxpayer dime.
You know why they went to the FBI?
Well, the FBI actually asked the NSA to collect as much information.
Do you know why the FBI was involved?
Why is that?
Why wasn't the CIA involved?
Was it because of Yates?
No. No. FBI was involved because it was civilian. If it was government officials, it'd be CIA.
Okay. Well, I mean, the overseas CIA works with the overseas. Maybe,
that was the whole big thing with Hillary Clinton and how she had to get the CIA involved by claiming she was hacked by the Russians.
Yeah.
We got that information from Sam.
Okay. So moving on, the FBI has closely examined at least 3 other people close to Trump, although it is unclear if their calls were intercepted. They are Carter Page, a businessman and former foreign policy advisor to the campaign, Roger Stone, a longtime Republican operative, and Mr. Flynn. So those three. All of the men have strongly denied that they had any improper contacts with Russian officials. Keep in mind, they may not have known that the person they were talking to was a Russian government official or intelligence official. And also, they're denying they had improper contacts. So if they did know that it was Russian, that they would have kept it proper.
So nobody knows anything.
Right. As part of the inquiry, the FBI is also trying to assess the credibility of the information contained in a dossier
What?
that was given to the Bureau last year by a former British intelligence operative.
I know who I knew who he was. I talked to the guy, the British intelligence officer,
The MI6 official. He was actually former, so he wasn't even current.
Right. He's got a handle on Twitter. It's called 4chan.
Oh, jeez. Okay, so let me move on so we could totally destroy this. The dossier contained a raft of allegations of a broad conspiracy between Mr. Trump, his associates, and the Russian government. Okay, so this dossier, let me explain something to you guys. This dossier has been 100% debunked. I'll give you the short breakdown of it. 4chan, I should say a member of 4chan, came up with a fan fiction about Trump doing stuff in Russia that would be not for public consumption on a show that's family friendly, but we'll say that there was a lot of stuff that they claim was captured by Russian cameras, maybe some audio, pictures, all of that would be used to blackmail him. This was made up by a 4chan kid, whatever, some guy, some gamer on 4chan, and made it look like it was on a CIA intelligence form with the header and all this kind of stuff. It was riddled with all kinds of spelling errors and formatting errors, and everything was wrong. But this was passed on to certain people who then passed it on to Egg McMuffin, who was excited at the time to try to derail the Trump campaign, the run for presidency. So he then shopped it around to all these different media outlets who looked at it and said, "This is not even real," and nobody bit. And finally, he gave it to John McCain, who shopped it around. And finally, after all was said and done, BuzzFeed picked it up, who then they came out with this big expose using the dossier. That article was picked up by CNN, which caused a major scandal and almost pretty much led to the destruction of BuzzFeed, rightfully so, almost to the effect of Gawker. Gawker's been destroyed because of their fake news about people who then sued them. I believe it was Hulk Hogan that put them out of business. We were thinking that this was such a scandal that BuzzFeed was going to actually be shut down because of it. CNN was so fearful that they ran with it that they distanced themselves from BuzzFeed totally, even though we still to this day point out that they link to it, and so rightfully so, they are branded fake news. And now, this New York Times article titled "Trump Campaign Aides Had Repeated Contacts with Russian Intelligence" is being substantiated by this 4chan fanfic at the end of this article.
God bless 4chan.
Yeah, so it also included unsubstantiated claims that the Russians had embarrassing videos that could be used to blackmail Mr. Trump. The FBI has spent several months investigating the leads in the dossier, but has yet to confirm any of its most explosive claims. Notice how they say "yet to confirm." This is the New York Times.
The dossier's been out for how many years?
Well, it goes way back to...
and the FBI still hasn't confirmed it. They haven't confirmed it still.
The fact that they use the phrase "yet to confirm," first of all, it implies that it's coming. That confirmation's coming.
Oh, one day.
Oh, really soon.
We will know about Golden Shower Gate.
Right. We will soon know that it is true, is what they're trying to say. Guys, New York Times, if you're listening to this article almost brought down BuzzFeed. and you're using it to substantiate your already debunked article. The article's been debunked. I didn't even have to read this last paragraph to have thoroughly debunked this entire article as being completely fake, it's a made-up, misleading article trying to mislead you into thinking that Putin and Trump were getting together to steal the election from the American people.
Well,
and you had to destroy your entire credibility by bringing up the 4chan fanfic that almost took down CNN.
For them to throw that in there.
Oh my God.
It's almost
like an Onion article.
Yes.
I feel like 4chan hacked NewYorkTimes.com
wrote this.
And put this article in there.
Dude, we should title this 4chan's New York Times article.
Okay, let's do it. Well, that's what this show is going to be about. I hope you listened to the whole thing and really got a lot out of it, because guys, when you see this article, and anybody that writes an article that has anything to do with this new breaking news today about Trump campaign aides having repeated contacts with Russian intelligence, you can now look them right in the face and say, I listened to Kerry Smith and Brian Smith completely debunk that entire narrative. It's fake news, and they had the audacity to use the completely debunked 4chan fanfic to substantiate it. Mic drop.
Vladimir Putin read the article. After the article, his translator said he said,
"You make me laugh. God bless you."
Oh my gosh. Share this everywhere, folks. Everywhere. You got to retweet this on Twitter, share it on Facebook. New York Times, fake news, debunked totally.
Listen to Sunday evenings, 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern live, where you can have a call in if you got something on your mind, or you can be on the message chat board.
At SmythRadio, at Brian P. Smith, SmyTH.
With unfathomable power.
What kind of power?
Unfathomable. It's without fathom.